The morning started like any other at the Galactic Council chambers. Representatives from 47 different species gathered in their usual seats, ready for another day of debates and decisions. The massive hall buzzed with the sounds of different languages being translated through universal communicators. Taemin's chair sat empty. For 30 years, the human ambassador had never missed a single council meeting. He was always the first to arrive, carrying his black briefcase and wearing his simple dark suit. The other council members had grown used to seeing him there, quietly taking notes while others argued about trade routes and mining rights. Velthari, the tall blue-skinned representative from Andromeda Prime, noticed the empty chair first. She tapped her long fingers on the metal table and looked around the room. Where was the human? It was not like Taemin to be late, let alone absent. Has anyone heard from Ambassador Taemin? Velthari asked the room. The other representatives looked at each other and shook their heads. No one had received any messages from the human delegation. This was strange. Humans were known throughout the galaxy for their constant communication. They sent reports about everything: weather patterns, crop yields, new scientific discoveries, and even what they had for breakfast. Grexmore, a thick-skinned creature from the heavy-gravity world of Titan 7, pulled out his communication device. "I will contact the human colonies," he said in his deep voice. His thick fingers moved across the device's surface, sending signals across space. Minutes passed, then an hour. Grexmore's face grew more worried with each failed attempt to connect. "Nothing," he finally announced. No response from any human settlement. The council chamber fell quiet. 46 different species looked at each other with growing concern. This had never happened before. The humans were always talking, always sending messages, always checking in with everyone. Far across the galaxy, Sora sat at her desk in the communications center on Earth Station Alpha. She was supposed to send her daily report to the Galactic Council in 10 minutes. She had done this same job for 8 years, never missing a single day. The report was simple: list the ships that came and went, note any problems with the station, and mention anything interesting that happened. But today, something felt different. Sora looked at her computer screen, but the words would not come. She felt a strange pull in her mind, like someone was calling her name from very far away. The feeling grew stronger with each passing moment. She stood up from her chair and walked to the large window that looked out into space. Stars dotted the black void like tiny diamonds. She had seen this view thousands of times, but today it looked different. Today it looked like a pathway to somewhere else. Sora reached for her communication device to call her supervisor, but her hand stopped halfway. The strange feeling in her mind grew stronger. It was not frightening. It felt like coming home after a long journey. She set the device back down and continued staring out the window. Across the station, other humans were feeling the same thing. Workers stopped in the middle of their tasks. Families gathered together in their living quarters. Children looked up from their games with wondering expressions. Captain Minho was 3 days out from Kepler 442 when the feeling hit him. He was sitting in the captain's chair of the Horizon's Edge, reading reports from his crew about their latest cargo delivery. The ship carried medical supplies to the outer colonies. Nothing special, just routine work. The feeling started as a whisper in the back of his mind. Then it grew into something he could not ignore. Minho looked around his bridge. His crew of 12 humans were all staring at the main viewing screen, which showed the stars ahead of them. "Captain," said his first officer, a young woman named Hee-Jin. "Do you feel that?" Minho nodded slowly. He did feel it. It was like a voice without words, calling them to do something important, something they had been preparing for their whole lives without knowing it. "Set course for the edge of the system," Minho ordered. "Sir?" Hee-Jin looked confused. "Our cargo is supposed to go to Colony 7. "The cargo can wait," Minho said. His voice was calm, but there was something different about it. Something final. "We have somewhere else we need to be." Back at the Galactic Council, panic was starting to set in. 3 hours had passed since the meeting began, and still no word From any human anywhere in the galaxy, Felthari had contacted her government's best communication experts. Grexmore had called in favors from traders who regularly visited human worlds. Every council member was using their connections to try to find out what had happened. The results were always the same. Silence. "This is impossible," declared Zilkan, an insect-like being from the hive worlds. "An entire species does not just stop talking. They are the most communicative race in the galaxy. They send us reports about their food recipes and weather patterns." "Something must be wrong," added Mortis, whose species was known for their advanced technology. "Perhaps their communication networks have failed." But even as they said it, none of them really believed it. The humans had backup systems for their backup systems. They were obsessed with staying connected to everyone and everything. As the day wore on, scout ships were sent to the nearest human colonies. The reports that came back made no sense. The colonies were there, the buildings stood intact, the power systems were running. But there were no humans anywhere, not dead, not captured, not hiding, simply gone. On Earth Station Alpha, Sora finally moved away from the window. She walked calmly to her desk and typed a single line into her computer. "Final report submitted. All duties complete." Then she turned off the machine and walked toward the transportation bay. She was not alone. Every human on the station was moving in the same direction, all with the same calm expression on their faces. They moved like people walking toward something wonderful, not away from something terrible. Captain Minho's ship had reached the edge of the Kepler 442 system. He looked at his crew and they looked back at him. Without speaking, they all knew what came next. "Begin the sequence," Minho said softly. And across the galaxy, 47 human worlds fell silent at exactly the same moment. The most talkative species in known space had stopped talking. The Galactic Council was about to learn that sometimes the loudest people are the ones with the biggest secrets. The emergency meeting lasted 14 hours. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy gathered in the council chambers. Maps of human space covered the walls, marked with red dots showing where colonies had gone silent. Felthari stood at the front of the room, her blue skin looking pale under the bright lights. She had been awake for 2 days straight, coordinating the search efforts. The news kept getting worse. "We have sent scout teams to 37 human worlds," she announced to the crowded room. "Every single colony is empty, but here is what makes no sense. Nothing is destroyed. The humans did not fight anyone. They did not run from anything. They just left." Grexmore raised his heavy hand. "What about their defense systems?" "Still working," Felthari replied. "All human military bases are powered up and ready for action, but there is nobody there to use them. It looks like they turned everything on and then walked away." The room erupted in nervous chatter. How does an entire species just disappear? And why would they leave their defenses running if they were abandoning their homes? Commander Hyun-woo had been dead for 6 hours, but nobody knew it yet. His body sat in his command chair deep inside Earth's orbital defense station. His eyes stared at the main screen, which showed the status of weapon systems throughout human space. All systems showed green. All weapons were powered and ready. All shields were at full strength. But there was nobody left to give orders. The defense grid was designed to protect human space from any attack. It was the most advanced military system the galaxy had ever seen, though most aliens thought it was simple and primitive. Hyun-woo had spent 15 years building it, making it stronger and smarter with each passing day. Now it stood ready to fight a war that would never come. 3 days after the silence began, the first search teams reached Research Station Omega. The station floated in space exactly where it was supposed to be. Its lights were on. Its computers were working. Its laboratories were full of active experiments. But every human was gone. Ji-woo's laboratory was found exactly as she had left. Her coffee cup was still warm. Her computer screen showed equations that made no sense to the alien scientists who examined them. The equations dealt with something called dimensional phase shifting and quantum consciousness transfer. Most strange of all was a project folder labeled Stillwater. Inside were thousands of pages of research about instantaneous communication across unlimited distances. The math was so advanced that even the galaxy's best scientists could not understand. "Look at this," said Dr. Kethvar, a renowned physicist from the crystal worlds. He pointed at Jiwoo's final notes. "She claims here that consciousness can be moved from one place to another instantly, regardless of distance. This is impossible according to everything we know about physics." His assistant, a young scholar named Prindal, studied the equations more closely. "But sir, what if our understanding of physics is wrong? What if the humans discovered something we missed?" Dr. Kethvar laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "The humans? They have only been in space for a few hundred years. We have been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years. What could they possibly know that we do not?" But even as he said it, doubt crept into his voice. The empty human colonies suggested that maybe, just maybe, they had underestimated humanity. On the mining world of Kepler 438b, search teams found Sangmin's operation exactly as he had left it. The huge machines were still digging, following a pattern that made no sense to the investigators. Sangmin had been mining materials that had no obvious use, rare elements that were too unstable for most known technologies. His personal logs told an interesting story. For the past 2 years, Sangmin had been receiving orders to mine specific elements in exact quantities. The orders came from Earth, but they were signed by people whose names appeared on no government records. "Who is Director Park?" asked the lead investigator, a spider-like being named Scaltrix. "This name appears on dozens of mining orders, but there is no such person in any human government database." "Maybe it is a code name," suggested his partner. "But why would humans use fake names for mining operations?" The answer was found in Sangmin's private files. Hidden deep in his computer were shipping records showing where the mined materials went. The destinations were coordinates in empty space, locations far from any human colony or known structure. But the most disturbing discovery was yet to come. Analysis of the mined materials showed they contained isotopes that could only be created by technology far beyond current galactic science. Someone had been using these materials to build things that should not be possible. Captain Minho's ship, the Horizon's Edge, was found drifting at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Like everything else, it was intact and functional. The cargo hold was full of medical supplies meant for Colony 7. The crew quarters showed signs that people had lived there normally, right up until the moment they vanished. But the ship's computer told a different story. The final log entry was recorded by Minho himself just hours before the silence began. "Personal log, Captain Minho recording. We have received the final signal. All preparations are complete. I want to say that I am proud to serve with this crew. What we do today we do for everyone, not just humans but every living being in the galaxy. I hope someday they will understand why we had to leave without saying goodbye. End log." The message was followed by a single line of code that wiped all navigation records from the ship's computer. Whatever the humans had done, they did not want anyone to follow them. As the search continued, a pattern began to emerge. Every human facility contained signs of long-term preparation for something big. Stockpiled supplies, modified equipment, and research into technologies that seemed impossible. Most telling of all were the evacuation procedures, detailed plans for moving entire populations quickly and quietly. The humans had not disappeared suddenly. They had been planning this for years, maybe decades, and they had hidden their preparations so well that nobody in the galaxy had noticed. Belthari stood in the empty council chambers, looking at Taimin's chair. For 30 years, she had sat next to the human ambassador. She had argued with him about trade policies and laughed with him about cultural differences. She thought she knew him well. Now she realized she had never really known him at all. "Where did you go?" she whispered to the empty chair. "And why did you not trust us enough to tell us?" Outside the great windows of the council chambers, stars twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, 47 billion humans had vanished without a trace. They had left behind empty homes, running machines, and 1,000 questions. But they had also left behind something else. The growing realization that humanity had never been as simple as they pretended to be. The galaxy was about to learn that the species they thought they understood had been playing a game far more complex than anyone imagined. The search for answers was just beginning. The breakthrough came from the most unexpected place. Dr. Kethvar was examining Jiwoo's research for the 5th time when he noticed something strange in the corner of one page. Tiny numbers written in pencil, so light they were almost invisible. "Prindal, bring me the file scanner," he called to his assistant. "I think there are hidden messages in these documents." When they scanned the papers with special light, words appeared between the lines. Jiwoo had been writing secret messages to herself, or perhaps to someone else. The hidden text was in simple Korean, not the complex scientific language of her main research. "The stars are calling us home," read one message. "The watchers have seen what comes. We must be ready to stand between darkness and light." "What does this mean?" Prindal asked. Dr. Kethvar shook his head. "I do not know. But I think we need to find more of these hidden messages." The search teams began looking more carefully at everything the humans had left behind. They found hidden text in personal letters, secret codes in shopping lists, and mysterious symbols carved into the walls of empty buildings. Slowly, a picture began to form. The humans had been preparing for something they called the long sleep. They wrote about going to a place where the Guardians wait and the final battle will be fought. Most confusing of all, they kept referring to themselves as the willing sacrifice. Daeun's research was scattered across 17 different worlds hidden in laboratories, libraries, and private homes. When the pieces were put together, they revealed something that changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about reality. Daeun had discovered that space was not empty. Between the stars, in the dark void that everyone thought was nothing, there were layers of hidden dimensions. These dimensions contained energy sources more powerful than entire suns, but accessing this energy required technology that could only be built with materials that did not naturally exist. She figured out how to create matter from pure energy, Dr. Kethvar explained to the emergency council session. But not just any matter. She learned to make materials with properties that should be impossible. And then she used these materials to build machines that could manipulate the hidden dimensions. "To what purpose?" asked Velthari. According to her notes, to create doorways, passages between our dimension and others. She believed that consciousness, what we call the soul, could travel through these doorways instantly, anywhere in the universe. The room fell silent. If this was true, then the humans had discovered the secret to instant travel across unlimited distances. They could go anywhere, do anything, become anything. But why had they kept it secret? And where had they gone? The answer came from Sangmin's mining operation. Analysis of his equipment showed that he had been building components for massive machines designed according to Daeun's theories. The rare materials he had been mining were being used to construct dimensional gateways. But these were not small experimental devices. The scale of the construction suggested machines the size of entire cities, and there were dozens of them, built in secret locations throughout the galaxy. They were not just experimenting, realized Skulltrix, the spider-like investigator. They were building a network, a way to move their entire species instantly from one place to another. But where? Demanded Grexmore. Where would 47 billion humans go? The answer came from an unexpected source. Wu Jin had been a military strategist for the human government. His official records showed a career spent planning defenses for human colonies and trade routes, but his private files told a different story. Wu Jin had been studying something he called the coming dark. His secret reports analyzed threats to galactic civilization, not from wars or politics, but from something much worse. He had identified patterns in cosmic radiation, changes in the behavior of distant stars, and anomalies in the fabric of space itself. Extragalactic threat assessment, read one of his classified documents. Evidence suggests hostile force approaching from beyond galactic rim. Estimated arrival, 47 to 52 years. Threat level, civilization extinction event. According to Wu Jin's analysis, something was coming from outside the galaxy. Something that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing behind but empty space. He called it the harvest. and his calculations showed it was unstoppable by any known military force. But Wu Jin had also developed a strategy to fight it. His plan was simple but terrible. Evacuate the most capable species to a safe location outside the galaxy, let them build advanced defenses in secret, and then use those defenses to protect the galaxy when the threat arrived. The chosen species would have to sacrifice everything: their homes, their families, their entire way of life. They would become guardians in exile, fighting a war that might last for centuries. The humans chose themselves, Velthari whispered, reading through Wu Jin's files. They decided to become the Guardians. Boram's historical research revealed how long the humans had been planning this sacrifice. Her project, called The Long Plan, traced secret human preparations going back over 200 years. Long before first contact with the galactic community, humans had been monitoring alien communications and studying galactic politics. They had not revealed themselves when they first developed faster-than-light travel. Instead, they had spent decades watching and learning, trying to understand which species could be trusted and which might pose threats. They were never the innocent newcomers we thought they were, Boram's notes explained. Humanity had been preparing for galactic citizenship for generations. Every ambassador, every trader, every human who worked with aliens was part of a vast intelligence-gathering operation. The humans had been studying the galaxy's weaknesses and strengths, looking for solutions to threats that other species did not even know existed. They had identified the approaching extragalactic danger long before anyone else and had quietly begun preparing to face it alone. But the most shocking discovery was yet to come. In the deepest levels of Daeun's hidden research, investigators found blueprints for machines that could affect reality itself. Not just travel between dimensions, but reshape the very structure of space and time. Temporal loop generators, Dr. Kethvar read from the technical specifications. Reality anchors, dimensional barriers. These are not just transportation devices, they are weapons of unimaginable power. The humans had not just learned to travel instantly through space, they had developed technology that could rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas. They could create zones where time moved differently, where energy behaved in new ways, where even the concepts of life and death might have different meanings. And they had built these impossibly advanced machines in secret, using materials and knowledge that no other species in the galaxy possessed. They had created a defensive network that existed partially outside normal reality, hidden in the spaces between dimensions. They never trusted us, Grexmore said sadly. In 30 years of friendship and cooperation, they never told us what they were really capable of. Can you blame them? Velthari replied. If you had this kind of power, would you trust a galaxy full of different species with it? Some of us still fight wars over trade routes and mining rights. What would we do with technology that could reshape reality? The investigation was revealing an uncomfortable truth about the human species. They had never been the simple, emotional, slightly primitive people that the galaxy had thought they were. Every human who had ever smiled and shaken hands with an alien representative had been part of an elaborate deception. They had studied galactic politics for centuries, identified existential threats that no one else could see, developed technology that made them potentially the most powerful species in known space, and then chosen to sacrifice themselves to protect everyone else. The humans had played the role of junior partners, while secretly becoming the galaxy's hidden guardians. And when the time came to fulfill their self-appointed duty, they had vanished without saying goodbye, leaving behind only empty homes and 1,000 questions. But they had also left behind something else. The growing realization that the galaxy might need guardians more than anyone had ever imagined. The discovery that changed everything came from the most ordinary place possible. A junior archivist named Yelton was sorting through diplomatic correspondence when she found a folder that had been misfiled for 15 years. The folder contained personal messages between human representatives and their families back on Earth. Most were simple letters about daily life, but hidden among them were communications that revealed the true scope of the human deception. My dear wife, read one letter from Ambassador Tai Min to someone named Yun Suk. The council meeting today was very productive. The Andromedans are still arguing about mining rights, which means they remain focused on short-term concerns. This is good for the timeline. Phase 7 preparations should continue as planned. Yelton read the letter 3 times before understanding what it meant. Ambassador Taemin had not been reporting on council meetings to his wife. He had been giving her updates on humanity's secret mission. More letters revealed more of the truth. Human representatives throughout the galaxy had been gathering information about every species, every government, every military force, and every potential weakness. But they were not planning conquest or domination. They were planning protection. The hive worlds have impressive industrial capacity but limited strategic thinking, wrote one human trade negotiator. In a crisis, they could produce defensive equipment quickly, but would need guidance on how to use it effectively. The crystal worlds have advanced sensor technology but weak military traditions, noted another. They could serve as early warning systems but would need others to handle actual combat. Every species in the galaxy had been carefully studied and categorized, not as enemies or competitors, but as potential allies in a war that only humans knew was coming. The scope of the human intelligence network was staggering. They had agents or observers in every major government, every important trade route, and every strategic location. But these agents were not spies in the traditional sense. They were guardians gathering information to better protect the people. They were watching. Boram's historical archive contained the master plan. Buried in centuries of seemingly innocent research was a document called Galactic Protection Protocol, Complete Species Analysis and Defense Allocation Strategy. The document revealed how humans viewed every species in the galaxy. The Andromedans were seen as natural leaders who could coordinate multi-species cooperation during a crisis. The hive worlds could mass-produce equipment and supplies. The crystal worlds could provide early warning systems and communication networks. Even the aggressive warrior races were cataloged for their potential roles in galactic defense. But the document also revealed something darker. Human analysis showed that the galactic community, as it currently existed, had no chance of surviving the approaching threat. The various species were too divided, too focused on their own concerns, and too limited in their thinking to mount an effective defense. Probability of successful galactic defense with current political structure: 0.3%, the analysis concluded. Recommendation: alternative protection strategy required. The alternative strategy was breathtaking in its scope and terrible in its implications. Humanity would evacuate entirely from normal space, taking their most advanced technology with them. They would establish hidden bases in the void between galaxies, using their dimensional manipulation technology to create fortified positions that could not be detected or attacked through conventional means. From these hidden bases, they would build a defensive network around the entire galaxy. When the extragalactic threat arrived, humanity would fight it in secret, allowing the rest of the galaxy to continue their normal lives without even knowing a war was being fought. Complete species sacrifice authorized, read the final line of the protocol. Humanity accepts exile status for the protection of galactic civilization, but the plan went even deeper than species sacrifice. Wu Jin's strategic documents revealed that humans had been preparing for this moment for over 300 years, since before they had even achieved interstellar travel. The early human space program had not been about exploration or colonization. It had been about preparing for eventual evacuation. Every human colony had been designed with hidden transport capabilities. Every human ship contained dimensional gateway technology. Every human family had been psychologically prepared for the possibility of sudden departure. Generation Ship's Protocol, read one of Wu Jin's classified files. In the event of species evacuation, all human populations must be prepared for immediate departure with no possibility of return. Psychological conditioning begins in childhood. Cultural programming emphasizes duty over personal attachment. The humans had been raising their children to be willing sacrifices. Every human who had ever lived in the galactic community had grown up knowing that someday their species might have to leave everything behind to protect others. Most shocking of all was the discovery of how the evacuation had actually worked. Diane's research had not just discovered dimensional travel, she had found a way to transfer human consciousness into energy patterns that could exist between dimensions. The humans had not needed ships or equipment for their evacuation. They had simply stepped out of normal reality and into a state of pure consciousness. Their physical bodies were gone, but their minds and souls existed in the spaces between dimensions, where they could build and operate technology that was partly real and partly thought. They had become beings of living energy, capable of manipulating reality through will and knowledge. Consciousness transfer successful for 99.7% of human population, read Dayun's final research notes. Integration with dimensional matrix complete, physical form abandoned, new existence state, stable, defensive network construction, initiated. 47 billion humans had voluntarily died in the traditional sense, transforming themselves into something entirely new so they could better protect the galaxy that had been their home. But the most disturbing revelation was still hidden in Wu Jin's deepest files. The approaching threat was not just another hostile species or empire. It was something that consumed the life force of entire civilizations, growing stronger with each galaxy it devoured. Threat analysis. The Devouring Dark, read Wu Jin's. Classified assessment. Extragalactic parasitic consciousness. Feeds on organized life energy. Estimated consumption rate, 1 galaxy per 1,000-year cycle. Current target, Milky Way galaxy. Defense requirements. Technology operating outside conventional physics. Conventional military force. Insufficient. The humans had realized that fighting this threat would require weapons and tactics that existed beyond the normal universe. Only beings who had transcended physical existence could hope to build defenses that the Devouring Dark could not simply consume and absorb. By transforming themselves into energy beings existing between dimensions, humanity had made themselves immune to the enemy's primary weapon, the ability to drain life force from physical creatures. They could fight a war that no physical species could survive. The plan was elegant and terrible. The humans would establish a defensive perimeter around the entire galaxy, using technology that existed partially outside reality. When the Devouring Dark arrived, it would find not a galaxy full of vulnerable civilizations, but a fortress defended by 47 billion guardian spirits armed with weapons that could rewrite the laws of physics. And the best part of the plan was that the rest of the galaxy would never know the war was being fought. They could continue their normal lives, arguing about trade routes and mining rights while humanity fought and died in the spaces between dimensions to keep them safe. Final strategic assessment, concluded Wu Jin's last report. Galactic civilization. Preservation probability with human guardian protocol, 67.4%. Acceptable odds. Operation approved. May future generations forgive us for what we must become. Velthari sat in the empty council chambers, surrounded by documents that revealed the truth about humanity's sacrifice. For 30 years, she had worked beside Taemin, thinking he was just another diplomatic representative trying to advance his species' interests. Now she knew he had been a guardian angel, gathering information and building relationships that would help him better protect her and everyone else in the galaxy. Every smile, every handshake, every shared joke had been part of a centuries-long plan to save civilizations that did not even know they needed saving. The humans had not just disappeared. They had transformed themselves into something beyond physical existence so they could fight a war in dimensions that normal beings could not even perceive. And they had done it all without saying goodbye. 6 months had passed since humanity fell silent. The galaxy had slowly returned to its normal routines, though Taemin's empty chair served as a constant reminder of the missing species. Trade agreements were signed, territorial disputes were settled, and life continued as it always had. Then, on a quiet Tuesday morning, every communication device in the galaxy activated at once. The signal came from beyond the galactic rim, from the empty void where no stars shone and no planets existed. It was impossible for any signal to reach so far, Yet every species in the galaxy heard it clearly in their own language. "Citizens of the galaxy," the voice began. "This is Yunji, speaking for humanity." Velthari dropped her coffee cup. The ceramic shattered on the floor, but she did not notice. After months of silence, the humans were finally making contact. "We know you have many questions about our departure," Yunji's voice continued. "We wish we could have said goodbye properly, but there was no time for explanations. What we had to do required complete secrecy, and the safety of everyone in the galaxy depended on our silence." The voice was calm and sad, like someone delivering news of a death in the family, which, Velthari realized, was exactly what this was. Humanity had died to protect everyone else, and now they were calling to explain why. "By now, your investigations have revealed some of our preparations. You know that we were not the simple species we pretended to be. You have found evidence of our advanced technology and our long-term planning. But you do not yet know why all of this was necessary." Across the galaxy, representatives from every species gathered around their communication devices. Even the normally busy hive worlds had stopped their industrial operations to listen. The crystal worlds had suspended their meditation cycles. Everyone was waiting to hear what had become of humanity. 47 years ago, our scientists detected something approaching our galaxy from extragalactic space. We called it the Devouring Dark, and it represents the greatest threat that any civilization can face. It is not a species or an empire. It is something much worse. It is a parasitic consciousness that feeds on the life force of entire galaxies. The communication channels filled with shocked responses from various species, but Unji's voice continued without pause. "The Devouring Dark has consumed 17 galaxies that we know of. Each galaxy made it stronger, more intelligent, and more dangerous. Our calculations showed that it would reach the Milky Way within 50 years, and when it arrived, every living being in the galaxy would be consumed to feed its endless hunger." Velthari felt a chill run down her spine. An enemy that could devour entire galaxies? It sounded like something from ancient myths, not a real threat. "We studied every possible defense strategy. We analyzed the capabilities of every species in the galaxy. We calculated the odds of successful resistance using conventional military forces. The results were always the same: 0 chance of survival." Voice paused, and in that silence, 46 species held their breath. The Devouring Dark cannot be fought with normal weapons because it exists partially outside physical reality. It drains the life force from any organic being that tries to resist it, making itself stronger while weakening its enemies. Conventional military forces would only feed its power. But we discovered something interesting in our research. The Devouring Dark can only consume life force from beings that exist in normal physical space. If we could transform ourselves into pure energy beings existing between dimensions, we could fight it without being consumed. Grexmoor's thick fingers trembled as he realized what the humans had done. They had not just evacuated from the galaxy. They had given up physical existence itself to become weapons against an enemy that no one else could fight. "The transformation was not easy," Yunji continued. "We had to abandon our bodies, our homes, and everything we had ever known. 47 billion humans voluntarily gave up physical life to become guardians in the spaces between dimensions. We built our new existence in the void between galaxies, where the Devouring Dark could not detect us. Using technology that operates outside normal physics, we constructed a defensive network around the entire Milky Way, weapons that can rewrite reality, barriers that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, detection systems that monitor threats from outside conventional space-time. The scope of humanity's sacrifice was becoming clear. They had not just left the galaxy. They had become the galaxy's immune system, operating in realms that other species could not even perceive. 3 months ago, the Devouring Dark reached the outer edge of our galaxy. It sent probe tendrils toward the spiral arms, testing for resistance. It found our defensive network instead. Velthari gasped. The war had already begun, and nobody in the galaxy had even known it was happening. The battle lasted 17 days in your time, though time moves differently in the dimensions where we now exist. We destroyed the Dark's probe forces and forced it to retreat beyond the galactic rim. But this was only the first engagement. It will return with greater force, and we will be ready. The voice grew stronger, filled with determination and resolve. We want you to know that your lives continue normally because we chose to make this sacrifice. Every day that you wake up safely, every trade agreement you sign, every child that is born in your worlds, all of this exists because humanity transformed itself into your guardians. We did not tell you about the threat because knowing would not have helped. The devouring dark can sense fear and despair from across galactic distances. If 46 species had spent 50 years in terror of an approaching enemy, that emotional energy would have guided the dark directly to your worlds. Instead, we let you live in peace while we prepared in secret. We gathered intelligence not to spy on you, but to better understand how to protect you. Every human who ever worked alongside your people was motivated by love, not deception. Tears were streaming down Veltari's face. For 30 years, she had thought Tai Min was her colleague and friend. Now she learned he had been her guardian angel. You should know that we do not regret our choice. Protecting the galaxy's civilizations is the greatest honor humanity has ever known. We may no longer exist in physical form, but our consciousness and our love for all life burns brighter than ever in the dimensions where we now dwell. The war against the devouring dark will continue for many years, perhaps centuries, but you do not need to worry about it. Continue your lives, build your civilizations, explore the stars, and create beauty in the world. We will stand watch in the darkness beyond reality, fighting battles you will never see to preserve the light you create. A new voice joined the transmission. This one was familiar. Ambassador Taman himself. My friends of the Galactic Council, he said, and Veltari could hear the smile in his voice even though he no longer had a physical mouth to smile with. I want you to know that every day I spent with you was a gift. Your friendship made our sacrifice meaningful. Knowing that you will continue to build a better galaxy together gives purpose to everything we have become. Take care of each other. Settle your disputes with wisdom rather than force. Remember that every species has something valuable to contribute to the community of life. And sometimes, when you look up at the stars, remember that humanity is still out there, still watching over you, still protecting the galaxy we all called home. The transmission began to fade, but Yunji's voice returned for one final message. This is our last communication with normal space. From now on, we exist only in the dimensions between dimensions, where the real war is fought. But know that we carry your memories with us, and those memories give us strength in the darkness. Live well, friends of the galaxy. Live freely. Live joyfully. And know that as long as stars shine and planets turn, the guardians of humanity will be watching from the spaces between worlds, keeping you safe from horrors you will never have to face. This is humanity signing off. Until we meet again, in whatever lies beyond the end of all things. The transmission ended, leaving 46 species in stunned silence. Belatari sat alone in the council chambers, looking at Tai Min's empty chair. But now she understood it was not really empty. Somewhere in dimensions her mind could not comprehend. Her friend was still there, still working to protect everything she held dear. She stood up slowly and walked to the chair. On the armrest she placed a small blue flower from her home world, a gesture of respect and love for guardians who would never again walk in physical gardens, but who had ensured that gardens would continue to exist for everyone else. Across the galaxy, other species were making their own gestures of remembrance. The hive worlds dedicated their largest factory to producing a memorial that would never be built, a tribute to sacrifice too great to memorialize. The crystal world sang songs of gratitude that no human would ever hear, but which somehow felt necessary anyway. And in the void between galaxies, 47 billion human spirits prepared for the next battle against the devouring dark, comforted by the knowledge that their sacrifice had meaning, their protection was working, and their love for all life would burn forever in the dimensions where only guardians could survive. The galaxy continued its ancient dance around the galactic center, unaware of the invisible war being fought for its survival.